gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport? It is Izubee, Charles, and good morning to you all. It is August 16th, 2023, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us on Good Morning CaneSport. Today, I'm joined by Stephen Wagner as we break down the news of the day, and there's plenty for you guys this morning. First up today, we start off with high school football. High school football is back in South Florida starting this Thursday, and we'll have you covered throughout this year with some of the top Miami targets as they suit up in Broward and Dade County. Stephen, this is going to be your first year covering high school football in South Florida, and you got a heck of a game to kick off this year with Shamadam and Northwestern playing tomorrow at Travis Powell Stadium. Talk about that matchup a little bit. Some of Miami's top targets will be playing for Shamadam and a few 2026 prospects from Northwestern. Just what are your thoughts on that matchup in this upcoming season for you covering South Florida football?
Yeah, well, coming from for those of you who don't know, for those of you who aren't aware of my past, before I was here, I was covering New Mexico State University for a small newspaper in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I had a chance to cover football, basketball, all that stuff for those guys. And I dabbled in a little bit of high school football there as well. And I mean, just from being out at some of the scrimmages here, I can already see that the intensity in South Florida is much, much, much more intense. Although I am from Texas originally, so we know a thing or two about high school football too. We know a thing or two about really intense atmospheres. But the talent level that I'm expecting to see Thursday at Traz is really just going to be through the roof. And obviously, we've got to talk about Chaminade. That's Zaquan Patterson, Jeremiah Smith, JoJo Trader, Cedric Bailey. Those four guys, I think, are obviously going to be the real focus. Now, of course, they've got some 2025 guys too, like Chris Ewald, the Michigan linebacker. I'm pretty sure he's a 4-star in the On3 recruiting database. I'm expecting to just see an absolute mass of talent on Thursday. Now, how much these guys are actually going to play, I'm not really sure. Are they going to treat this like a real scrimmage in like a spring game where they let their starters take very meaningful snaps, or are they going to treat this like an NFL preseason game? Where they get into a much more conservative mindset of, hey, don't let Jeremiah Smith get hurt. Don't let JoJo Trader get hurt. But regardless, I am looking forward to getting out there and having the chance to see them. And I do anticipate that they'll play. And whenever they do, I'm really excited to see what Jeremiah Smith looks like against other live competition and not just in a combine or a 7-on-7 format, because this is going to be the first time that I've actually had a chance to see Jeremiah live. One guy that I am going to be watching particularly closely this season, though, is going to be JoJo Trader. And the reason for that is I saw something. I've seen some stuff in his film and watching him at 7-on-7 camps that I don't think it's everything, but I do think it's something. And it is something that I think he really, really has to improve this year, or else I might be, I might be just a tad concerned for, how long it may take him to adjust to the college game. And that's his ability to really get separation from some of these receivers. Watching his film, he catches literally everything. His hands are second to none, and he plays so much bigger than his frame. I think he's about 6'1", 175 pounds or so. I'm 6 foot, and he's a little bit taller than I am. And he plays just so absolutely massive. He is able to manhandle a lot of these corners, extremely athletic, makes these really acrobatic catches time and time again. But the thing that does concern me a little bit is his lack of ability to really consistently get separation from these corners unless the corner just straight up falls down or missteps. or something along those lines. Because whenever these corners are able to stay on you that tight and force you to make catches that are that athletic that consistently, that'll work at the high school level where you're straight up just more talented than everyone. And that's a big reason why he's been listed as a 5-star and a 4-star recruit by I'm pretty sure every composite, every industry ranking, every database at some point during his recruitment. But it's something that I'm not necessarily sure will transfer to the college level, simply because once he gets to the college level, even though I definitely think he's talented enough to be a day one starter for Miami, it's something that or he won't be the most talented player on the field necessarily anymore. He's going to be facing longer, stronger, more physical defensive backs who he can't just out athlete. And so that's something that I'm going to be watching really, really closely from him is he going to improve his route running to the level that he's able to really start gaining separation and start giving himself some layups. You see so many of his catches, they end up being these extreme acrobatic catches, and they are highlight reel catches, but I kind of wonder to myself sometimes, man, did that have to be a highlight reel catch? I really do want to see him improve his ability to get separation, because I think that is going to be a really, really big factor in telling us just how college ready he is by the time that he graduates and that he enrolls.
Yeah, that first game versus Chaminade and Northwest is going to be a heck of a matchup. And like you mentioned, JoJo Trader, Jeremiah Smith, Zaquan Patterson, Cedric Bailey, just getting eyes on those guys live is always amazing to see. And I had a chance to watch them last year and was just absolutely amazed by their talent. And I can see why Miami wants to keep those guys home. So going to be looking out for that on Thursday with that matchup, and turn around the next day on Friday, another big matchup with Booker T. Washington going up to Broward County to face off against American Heritage, who lost in the state championship last year. On both sides of those teams, we have Booker T with Ben Hanks and Antonio Branch Jr., and then on American Heritage side, we have Malachi Tony, Byron Lewis, Dia Bell. So a lot of young talent matching up in that game. I'm really excited to see how, Ben Hanks and Antonio Branch Jr. face off against, Malachi Tony, who's considered to be one of, if not the top wide receivers in the 2026 class, and Dia Bell, who is one of the top quarterbacks in the 2026 class. So we're going to have you guys covered the entire weekend with tons of Miami targets as they open up the season in South Florida. Moving on to some recruiting news. Obviously, the 2024 class is kind of in the spotlight right now, but we did have a commitment from 2025 quarterback Luke Nickel out of Milton, Georgia. And we have a nice story up on Coach's Take about, just what type of player Miami's getting out of Luke Nickel. And I had the chance to speak with his head coach and his offensive coordinator in Milton, who told me Luke Nickel's best attribute isn't, his arm strength, isn't his size, but it's just his coachability. Once you tell this kid something once, it sticks with them forever. And we get a chance to kind of pick the brains of the offensive coordinator and the head coach. So make sure to check that article out on Miami's latest commitment in the 2025 class, Luke Nickel, who's also the first Miami commitment in that 2025 class. Moving on to another 2025 prospect, Jade Carr out of Miami Norland, an athlete. Steven, we had the chance to get a couple eyes on him throughout the summer, and now you spoke with him recently. Just what's the latest with Jade Carr out of Miami Norland, a guy that Miami really likes and a lot of other schools in Florida really like?
Yeah, he's a guy who has seen his recruitment definitely pick up after August 1st. That was the first day that college coaches were permitted to start directly contacting 2025 guys. Obviously, Jade Carr was definitely one of them. He's mostly talking to Kevin Beard right now, the receivers coach at Miami, and it kind of figures that he'll that they're kind of looking at him at receiver. But he's also told me that they've asked him, how he'd feel about playing safety. And he's a guy who tells me that he's really willing to play kind of anywhere. He doesn't really care what position he has to play. He just wants to be on the field because he's that manic about football. And let's be honest, I think that if you're going to play Division I football, you've got to be a little bit manic. I mean that in a very, very good way. I had a chance to see him this summer. Really only had the chance to see him at receiver But you can kind of tell by his length, by his range, by his athleticism. We had a chance to see him test in some combine type settings. I can definitely see the appeal of why some teams would be looking at him at defensive back. He was previously at South Broward before he transferred, and he told me that he played a little bit of defensive line there. I believe he's about 6'3" or so, very quick, kind of twitchy. So I can definitely see where he gets kind of his mentality, I guess I should say, kind of that dog mentality of, screw everybody else. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make a play. I think he's going to test very well in combine settings. I think he has very good measurables. And I can see why programs are looking at him as potentially, sort of like a two-way player. A lot of schools not sure if they want to take him at receiver, if they want to take him at DB or safety or something like that. But he's a guy who I think we're going to start hearing his name more and more as the class goes on.
Yeah, and another 2025 wideout that's kind of making noise in South Florida now is a guy that just came down to South Florida from Pensacola in 2025 Western High School, wide receiver Kobe Howard. Probably a name you guys remembered last year at the Legends Camp. Unfortunately, he broke his leg during the camp and was offered by Miami Hospital by Mario Cristobal. Since then, he's recovered. He's made a full comeback, and he's kind of making noise on the 2025 circuit as one of the top wideouts in the 2025 class. And he's recently made the move down to Western High School, where he'll be playing his junior season. Steven, another guy that you spoke with that really, really likes Miami, and I feel like Miami's kind of benefiting from him coming down to Pensacola and playing right in their backyard in Broward County. Just what were your thoughts and impressions after talking with Kobe Howard?
Yeah, another big twitchy guy. Really good receiver. Obviously broke his leg at the Mario Cristobal camp. What was it? 2 years ago? I want to say, but he's a guy whose stock has kind of continued to rise, and I think that there are a lot of people who are looking forward to seeing what he can do this fall after only getting to play 2 games last year while he recovered from that broken leg. He's a guy who really broke out onto the scene as a true freshman up in Pensacola, and obviously now down here in South Florida, he's going to be facing much stiffer competition. But I talked to a lot of people who are really confident that he is going to be a guy who can handle that competition, that he is definitely going to be able to step up to it. I'm not sure who all is on their schedule this year, but he is someone who I'm going to be keeping an eye on. He's someone who I expect to visit Miami at some point unofficially this fall. I wouldn't be for a game this fall, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get him down for an unofficial visit kind of later in the year once the season wraps up as well.
Yeah, it's actually funny because Davey and Milton actually playing a kickoff class in, I believe, about 10 or so days. So we're going to have the chance to see Luke Nickel against Kobe Howard and a few other guys. So if any fans want to, catch Miami's latest 2025 commit, Luke Nickel, he will be playing against Western High School, I believe, on the 20-something or around that day. So just mark your calendars for that if anyone wants to see Miami's latest commit live. But sticking with 2025 wide receivers, another guy out of South Florida and Homestead wide receiver Cortez Mill, who was the number 106 overall prospect in the On3 industry ranking and the number 17 wide receiver, a guy that Miami really likes and would love to have him stay home in that next cycle. Steven, just what was that conversation like with Cortez Mill when you picked his brain and talked to him a little bit?
Yeah, so he's visited Miami a few times already. He intends on getting back to Miami probably for a game this fall. He's another guy who I think Miami is going to be watching very, very closely. Although right now, where exactly he ends up is kind of that's kind of the $1 million question. Because being a 4-star prospect and very, very nearly a top 100 recruit, I mean, that's obviously going to draw a lot of interest from a lot of programs. I believe you might want to double check me on this, but I believe he's actually visited Miami more than any other program so far. And obviously a big reason for that is Miami's right there in his backyard, being from Homestead and being able to make that short drive to, or I guess relatively short drive to Coral Gables when you consider how far away places like Gainesville and Tallahassee would be. But Mills is a guy, I've had a chance to watch a little bit of his tape. I'm really hoping that I get a chance to see him play live this fall and kind of, get my own chance to evaluate him. but he's deceptively long. You look at him, and his physical frame isn't really going to overwhelm you, but then you see him play, and you see the catches that he's able to make and the way he's able to use his body, and you just kind of appreciate how really long this kid is. He's kind of twitchy. I think he would be much better as a slot than maybe an X or a Y, or than an X or a Z receiver at the college level. I think that there are a lot of different things that you could do with a guy like Cortez Mills. I see him as a dude where his team, at least this year, is going to I could definitely see his coaches just sitting down saying, man, how can we get Cortez the ball? Because he does find a way to make plays. I think that his stock is going to continue to rise, because I really do think that he's going to have a real breakout year this fall. Yeah, he's already had very serious production. He had real production as a sophomore at Homestead. I think he's going to be even better as a junior. And I can tell you that there are a lot of really big name programs who have him very high on their 2025 board, but they're also just getting started with his recruitment. They've got a long way to go with him.
Yeah, I had the chance to watch Cortez a little bit during the summer, during the 7-on-7 circuit. I was just really, really impressed after watching him live when he played for Raw Miami, at Battle Miami, and a few other tournaments down here. And with him, it's really cool seeing a local guy, always rep the U, because I feel like every time I watched him play, he had those hurricane gloves on, throwing up the U and things like that. So another guy of mine would love to keep home in that 2025 cycle out of Homestead. To wrap up the recruiting updates today, we have our last update with 2026 Miami commit Kasani Giles. Yes, 2026, you heard that correctly. Committed to Miami back on May 22nd, during right before the summer started, and he's really loved Miami ever since his commitment. I had the chance to speak with him at IMG's media day on Friday and just kind of picked his brain a little bit about you're a 2026 guy, just why did you decide to commit so early? You used to have 3 years in high school. He really told me he just felt like Miami was home after that first visit with his with Ellis Robinson. Then he came back a few days later with his mom and just was blown away by the staff. He told me how Coach Dennis Smith, better known as D-Tran, just kind of really made him feel at home in Miami, and how he really wants to play under Coach Jamil Adai, who sent a handful of guys to that next level we saw last year with Tyreek Stevenson and DJ Ivey. And Giles really wants to come to Miami and just be the face of that 2026 class. And that's something Miami is telling him. So make sure to check out that update on Miami commit Kasani Giles out of IMG Academy. Well, that's all that we have for you this morning. We have tons of recruiting updates on the site this morning, and there'll be tons of more stories coming in throughout the day. So make sure to check that out. If you enjoyed this video, leave a big like on the YouTube video. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to stay updated with all your Hurricanes news. For Stephen Wagner, I'm Izubee Charles, and have a great day.